So we now know there are at least six players that are going to be leaving West Ham United this coming summer. And there's several more poised to be leaving as well, I'm pretty sure. Now, of the six, they include the five players who are out of contract at the end of this season. Of course, they're Lucasz Fabianski, Vladimir Coufal, Aaron Cresswell, Danny Ings, and of course, Kurt Zouma. These five players have made a total contribution of 832 appearances between them over a combined total of 28 years of service. And of course, the player who's had the most appearances has been Aaron Cresswell. Over a period of 11 years, he's made 367 appearances. Now, many fans are asking, why have we not given Cresswell a testimonial yet? Normally, after 10 years, players would get a testimonial. Now, it's quite possible that once the season has ended, it may be the club will announce something, a testimonial to happen. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens there. I think it will be good for Cresswell to get that testimonial. It's not because he needs the money. The old-fashioned way of doing testimonials, of course, was because way back, players didn't earn as much money as they do now. And a testimonial was a way of boosting, a kind of like a pension fund for the player before leaving. They don't need the money now, but it's a good way of saying thank you to a player who's given us 11 years of service. Now, not all five players who are leaving this summer because of their contracts ending, not all five players have been a success. In his 69 appearances, Danny Ings has scored just 5 goals and he's got 5 assists. Not a great return, really, for a striker, but I think we all knew when we bought him that he was kind of already past his best. And the injuries that he had, etc., certainly didn't help. And of course, Kurt Zouma, in the 3 years that he was at the club. Now, I know people are going to say, hang on a minute, it's 4 years, but I'm not including the season at the moment because he's been out on loan for all of that season. So the 3 seasons that he's played for us, that's also not been an overall success in a way. To me, again, Zouma missed large chunks of each season that he was at West Ham because of injury. Yes, okay, he led us to the final in Europe, etc. But I don't know. Overall, for me, Zouma was a bit of a mistake to buy. But as for Fabianski, Coufal and Cresswell, well, they've all been superb for West Ham United. I've already mentioned over 11 years, Cresswell making 367 appearances in all competitions, and he's given us some absolutely memorable moments. Alas, though, some fans will continue to blame him for us not making the Europa League final when we're in the semi-final against Eintracht Frankfurt. Look, for me, it was always that sending off was always harsh. I was there on the night, and then coming back and watching a repeat of it, etc. I still think it was harsh, but unfortunately, some fans won't forget that. For me, I think he, as well as Fabianski and Coufal, are going to be sorely missed from West Ham, not only for their contributions on the pitch, but off the pitch as well. You see, these are 3 true characters who have led by example, and to lose all 3 of them in the same summer is going to be felt, in the dressing room. Now, we're already bemoaning the lack of leaders at West Ham United this season, and these are the sorts of players who had an element of leadership about them. So when Kyle Macauley and Graham Potter agree on the list of targets that they want to bring to West Ham, I would wager that they're not only going to be seeking players who have got great talent, great technique, but they're also going to be looking for players with strong character, with good leadership qualities to help recreate a sense of identity in the dressing room next season. Now, one such player who doesn't possess that, as far as I'm concerned, is the next player that wants to leave West Ham United. And he's the 6th one out of the 8 that I've got on my list. And it's, of course, Nayef Aguerd. Now, it has come as no surprise at all to hear the stories that Aguerd doesn't wish to return to the club after his loan spell in Spain at Real Sociedad. That's fine. No point trying to convince him otherwise. He was yet another player who clearly didn't really want to be at West Ham United. And in his second season at West Ham, he always seemed to find injuries, pick up injuries whenever there was a domestic game on, but miraculously recovered when international fixtures were on. Look, we all had high hopes for Aguerd, and let's face it, he turned out to be average at best. He was meant to come in to replace Angelo Ogbonna, who for me was an absolute stalwart at West Ham United. And I don't think Aguerd came anywhere near close to being anywhere near as good as Ogbonna was. In a way, I'm not really interested in the reasons why he doesn't want to stay. It's been suggested that he didn't agree with or he didn't like the playing style under David Moyes, which put more pressure on him as a defender, when playing the low block. Yeah, perhaps that's true. But a good defender, defends no matter what system he's playing in. Others suggested that it's because he just hasn't settled in England. Now, I'm not sure whether I want to believe the playing style. David Moyes had been at West Ham for a couple of seasons before Aguerd arrived. So Aguerd would have known full well what our playing style was. So I'm not buying that excuse. Instead, for me, I believe he found it tough in the Premier League and he simply couldn't hack the pace of it. Now, he's at Sociedad, and to be honest, as far as I'm concerned, they're welcome to him. Having said that, I wonder if they're going to want him because, you see, last season, Real Sociedad finished 6th in La Liga. They got into Europe. And now, at this moment in time, they're currently 12th in the league. So has he improved them? I don't know. One thing's for sure is that he's not going to be leaving for nothing. West Ham will insist on a high fee for him wherever he's going to end up. Now, we bought him for £32 million back in 2022 from French club Stade Rennais. He's still got 2 years left on his contract. I think, if his fee has been paid over the whole period of the contract, then we've probably already paid about 20 million towards the 32 million that we owe to Stade Rennais. Now, we're going to want, at the very least, I doubt very much we'll get 30 million for him, but I think we're going to want at least 25 million for him. And I don't think that would be unreasonable, to be quite honest with you. Because obviously him leaving and with other players leaving because of their contracts ending, we need as much money as we can. Of course, we keep hearing that we're broke, but we need as much money as we can to start bringing in replacements. Now, other players looking likely that they're going to leave when the transfer window opens is Guido Rodriguez. Now, apparently, 3 of the 4 clubs that he formerly played at are in the running to re-sign him. CF America in Mexico is one such club. Rodriguez played for them alongside Edson Alvarez. And then he went to Spanish club Real Betis in 2020. And it is Real Betis who are rumoured to be interested in bringing him back to Spain as well. But it's suggested that Rodriguez himself would rather go back he would favour and move back to River Plate where he started his career. Now, West Ham would accept a bid of about £5 or £6 million for the player, which would at least pay back the signing on fee that the player got when he signed for us last summer. And finally, for the first time in a new interview, the 8th player that is looking likely to be leaving is, of course, Michail Antonio. Now, in an interview, he hinted that his time at West Ham might finally be coming to an end. Look, we all know about the accident. We all know what happened, etc. And we know that Antonio's back in training, mainly gym-based to get his strength up. But in this interview with France Football, Antonio admitted that he would love to stay at West Ham, but it is now in the club's hands. And he's alluded for the first time that it's not certain that he will stay beyond the end of this season. Now, during the interview, he stated that he feels confident that he could do a good job for any club, whether it be West Ham or any other club that he might end up at. But he also admitted that the rehab and recovery it can be quite difficult on some days, and sometimes his brain is telling him that his legs can't do certain things. And then after training, his legs feel dead for hours. And on top of that, he may not be able to return to running until June. Look, I admire the man for not wanting to give up, but just those things alone, you know, feeling quite tired at times, not being able to get his brain to tell his legs what to do, you know, maybe not running until June, seems to imply to me that his rehab is going to take a lot longer than anyone anticipated. I remember when I read up on the injuries that he got from the car accident, and there was a suggestion there that it's a minimum of 1 year before he could start doing anything really physical with his legs. Look, to be quite honest with you, if his rehab is going to take a lot longer, then I think that's the clearest sign yet that we're not going to be looking at giving Antonio an extended contract, certainly as a player, after his contract ends this coming summer. So that's 8 players leaving before we even start thinking about other players that we have to start selling. You know, of the players that I've mentioned, there are only 2 that are going to give us any kind of return. Around about 25 million for Aguerd and around about 6 million for Rodriguez. With Graham Potter suggesting that not only does he want to bring the average age of the squad down, he's also suggesting that he wants to reduce the overall size of the squad as well. So that means with all these players going, we may be looking at players who are going to be quite versatile in what positions they can play in. So there's one at the moment. The guy from Genoa can play as a right back as well as a central midfielder as well. So I think we're going to be looking at players like that. But it's all very well reducing the average age of the squad down. Of course, we want to see younger players coming into the club, but we need players that are going to come to us who are going to be capable of withstanding the pressure of playing in the Premier League. Plus, we need players who are going to have the right attitude and be a voice both on and off the pitch in a positive way. Now, with so many players being linked to us at the moment, it's not only the footballing ability that I'm trying to read up about on these links, but I'm also trying to understand, you know, and trying to read about each player's character to see if they're going to sort of be the kind of player that we need at West Ham United. Now, those are the sorts of players I think Macauley and Potter will be pushing to get at the club this summer. And then that leads me to think that with the players that we're going to still have left at the club, one player, because of his character, who's likely to stay is Thomas Soucek. Look, I think it was interesting that he was given the armband again when Bowen came off against Man United at the weekend. Soucek is already the captain of his national side, and it was Soucek who urged Fabianski, Cresswell and Coufal to take the plaudits from the fans at the end of the game against Man U. I like him as a player. I like him as a person. He absolutely loves playing for West Ham United. He's got the right attitude. He's got the right character, you know, and he would make a good leader. I'm not suggesting that he should take over from Jarrod Bowen, but, you know, as a vice captain at the club and as a player, one of the mature players at the club, I think he could certainly help to, if we bring young players into the squad, he could certainly help them to settle, to acclimatise to West Ham United. He's a West Ham man now, isn't he? So despite all the goals that he gives us, which are obviously important, I think Potter himself will be thinking that Soucek as a character would be good to keep around the club next season. Look, I'm going to do another show later on about the transfers that we're linked to and the rumours that I update you on all the rumours. So do look out for that as well. But tell me what you think about the players that are leaving. What do you think about Aguerd leaving? Do you think Soucek should stay? And what about Antonio? Should we offer him a new deal? Or should we really sort of now just say, you know, unfortunately, it's come to the end of the road for him? Tell me what you think. Leave your comments. And if you first time you're watching this channel, and if you've enjoyed the content, please do consider subscribing. Costs nothing to subscribe and all the content is free. But either way, please do hit the like button, subscriber or not. please do hit the like button. I'll be back again soon. And thank you for watching and listening, and see you all later.